This is a presentation on the actions and strategies of adaptive management. My name is Melissa Palfreyman. Today is December 9th, 2018, and this is for an environmental management class at American Public University. This presentation will discuss the actions and strategies for the LaSalle Daisy Management Plan. First, a quick overview of the topic of the plan, which is the protection of the LaSalle daisy, or Erigeron mancus, and its habitat. E. mancus is a short herbaceous perennial plant with a small yellow flowering head. It blooms in July and August. It is classified as a rare plant species and will soon be designated as a sensitive species, which means it will need to be managed so as to prohibit it from becoming threatened or endangered, as defined by the Endangered Species Act of 1973. E. mancus is found only in Utah. In fact, it is endemic to the LaSalle Mountains, which you see indicated by the red dots in this picture. That's where the LaSalle Mountains are located, and here is a picture of the LaSalle Mountains. Its habitat is up in the high alpine ecosystem, about 3,000 to 3,800 meters high, and it lives in the grass sedge forb communities or meadows that are found up here in the alpine ecosystem. This area is also prime habitat for mountain goats. Mountain goats are not native to Utah, and they were introduced into the LaSalle Mountains 5 years ago. I bring up the mountain goats because there is concern about the goats disturbing and destroying E. mancus's habitat. You can see in this picture the type of disturbance that is occurring. This disturbance is occurring from the goats digging wallows and scraping away the vegetation, stomping on and grazing the plants as well sometimes. So to protect the LaSalle daisy and its habitat, the goal has been made to just prevent the LaSalle daisy from becoming threatened or endangered, as defined by the ESA of 1973. And to do that, then we need to maintain a viable E. mancus plant population and provide a sustainable habitat for the plant to be successful. So our vision statement for this is caring for the LaSalle daisy to keep its population viable and its endemic habitat in the LaSalle Mountains sustainable. So the actions and strategies for the LaSalle Daisy Management Plan will address management alternatives, monitoring activities, assessment techniques, and success criteria. The alternatives for this plan, there are 4 of them. I'm calling them alternative A, B, C, and D, with D being the preferred alternative. So let's get into the alternatives. Alternative A, the actions for this is no different action will happen. Management will continue under the current land and resource management plan. And in this plan, it does not address E. mancus specifically, and it says certain vegetative types are to be managed such that varying successional stages will be present to provide for a high level of vegetative diversity and productivity. It also states that vegetative diversity within the grass and forb ground cover will also be improved. So this could or could not address the E. mancus, but the monitoring techniques that this plan addresses, there's nothing specifically set up for E. mancus, and the only vegetative monitoring technique described under this plan is broad, it's non-inclusive, and states generally that photo points at selected key sites and or locations and analyses will occur every 3 to 5 years. So the assessment will be to take those photos and compare them to determine any change. Current photos will be compared with photos from the last monitoring activities, and success will be determined by visual observations. If it looks like E. mancus numbers have either increased or decreased, they will be classified as either viable or not viable. If E. mancus's habitat looks either healthier or less healthy, it will be classified as either sustainable or not sustainable. Alternative B, the action here focuses on E. mancus population viability. It prioritizes the Mount Pill Resource Natural Area as a key area of protection. The RNA is a 2,380 acre parcel, of which 967 acres of it qualify as E. mancus's essential habitat. So this plan would require building a fence around the 967-acre portion of the RNA that would keep mountain goats out but allow free access for other native animals. Seeds will also be collected under this action plan. The E. mancus will be monitored in the RNA through elevational transects to measure periodic changes in population density. There has been monitoring already done, and this is the way it was done. It was with 1 by 1 meter square frames at 20 meter intervals with a random start sampling location within the first 20 meters and systematic 20 meter intervals after that. And the monitoring is happening, or did happen, during mid-July near the peak flowering time, and so that would also continue. And also, we would visually examine the fenced-in area for signs of mountain goat presence, and this would happen every 3 to 5 years, this monitoring. The assessment would happen with current population density being measured against previous years' measurements, and the success, it's uncertain with what the target is that would define E. mancus as viable, but given a baseline population of 203,000 plants in 2009 and compared with 265,000 plants in 2015, and this data comes from these monitoring activities that we just mentioned, those results show that the 2009 plant population is viable and capable of increased success from that baseline. Therefore, 203,000 or so plants will be the starting point when considering E. mancus population as viable. So alternative C emphasizes maximum protection of E. mancus and its habitat. It focuses on the protection of the essential habitat in its entirety. So not just the RNA, but the entire alpine area of the La Salle Mountains. This would be done by eliminating the presence of mountain goats in the La Salle Mountains altogether, restricting recreational uses and mining, and this would be regulated by permits and issuing quotas as well. Monitoring would be done by the severity of disturbances in E. mancus habitat caused by recreational use and mining activities. It will need to be determined what the severity of it is. So the initial monitoring methods will include counting the number of disturbed sites, the size of those disturbed sites, determining the cause of the disturbance, photographically documenting the disturbance, and rating the severity of this disturbance on a scale of 1 to 5 as follows, with 1 being minor disturbance, 2 is low, 3 is moderate, 4 is high, and 5 is detrimental. Once that initial scale has been determined, then follow-up monitoring will occur every 3 to 5 years at each of those sites and will be given a subsequent rating from the rating system above, plus a second 1 to 5 rating to track the change that has occurred as follows. 1 being substantial improvement, 2 some improvement, 3 no improvement or no decline, 4 some decline, and 5 substantial decline. This will be assessed by counting the number of the disturbed sites, the size of the disturbed sites, the severity of this disturbance, and the severity of the changes in disturbed sites will be compared with results from previous years. Success will be determined by 3 different measurements. 1, the number of disturbed sites. That target is to have a decrease in the numbers of disturbed sites from year to year. Number 2, the size of the disturbed sites. The target is to have a decrease in the mean size from year to year. And 3, the mean of the 2 severity ratings. The target mean is 2.5 or below. Our last alternative, alternative D, is the preferred alternative. And the actions for this will include some of the actions from A and B. This allows for acceptable levels of disturbance to occur, but would require additional review to ensure compliance with the overall goal of the plan being met. Management will examine the relationship between disturbance intensity and E. mancus viability. So in this plan, we're studying not only the population, but the habitat. And those alternatives, this alternative is the most flexible. By allowing multiple management decisions to occur on an ongoing basis, it will provide the most data to learn from, and management decisions will be adjusted as needed. The monitoring methods includes methods described in alternatives B and C. So we're basically counting daisies and measuring disturbance. The measuring of the counting of the daisies won't be just in the RNA area or the RNA area. The boundary would extend to include a wider sample area. These results will then be analyzed, so the number of daisies and the severity of the disturbance, those two things will be analyzed to get a relationship between plant viability and disturbance rates, to see how they relate to each other. And the assessment, same with alternatives B and C. We're just comparing them from previous years. Population numbers and disturbance ratings will then be compared against each other over time to find any correlating relationships. The population numbers used in conjunction with the disturbance ratings will reveal how much disturbance E. mancus can tolerate before its viability suffers, thus determining an acceptable disturbance level. And the success in the plant population will ultimately be the determining factor in success, with a minimum of 203,000 plants or so saying that it's viable, and habitat success will be determined by the amount of the disturbance and where it falls within E. mancus's tolerance level. So those are the actions and strategies for the LaSalle Daisy Management Plan. Thank you for listening, and here are my references.